You're listening to Market the Brew, a leading resource for promoting and marketing craft beer. Join in as we share with you, straight from the source, tools and strategies craft brewers from around the country are using right now to achieve significant success. Please welcome your hosts, Danielle and Travis Kleven.
Hello and welcome back to the Market the Brew podcast. I'm Scott Schmidt, founder of Promote the Brew and the Market the Brew podcast. And for these first few episodes, I'll also be the co-host. Our podcasts are available at marketthebrew.com and podcast sites like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We will also be posting video of each of our podcasts through the Promote the Brew YouTube channel. So whether you choose to listen through a traditional podcast site or watch and listen to us through our YouTube channel, you have several options to follow and listen to us. We also hope that you'll follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Those links will be in the podcast notes on the Market the Brew website. With me today are our new hosts of the Market the Brew podcast, Danielle and Travis Kleven. Danielle and Travis have started their own craft beer journey in the past year and have been chronicling that journey through their Instagram account. But enough about me. Let's hear from them, our new hosts. Let's start with the two of you telling us a little bit about yourselves and then how the two of you started your craft beer journey. And let's not leave out your furry sidekick. Danielle and Travis.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, everybody.
So I am Danielle. I am a teacher here in Wisconsin. We've started visiting different Milwaukee breweries because we bought a house here in Milwaukee. We're from Waukesha, and believe it or not, I actually didn't start as a beer drinker. So the journey's been really fun and interesting and pretty new.
And then I'm Travis, and I do sales for a distribution company here near Waukesha, New Berlin area. And yeah, we've been just hopping around from brewery to brewery recently and recording of things we like and everything. So
all right, well, what are some of the interesting things you've learned about craft beer that you didn't know prior to getting into it?
I think one of the things that we've noticed is how different beers are. Each craft brewery has different beers, whether it's a sour or their twist on an IPA, and there isn't a beer at each brewery that tastes the same. Yeah. So there really is something for everyone.
That's great. Now, have you found it hard to make friends with people at breweries?
Not at all. I mean, you can sit down and start talking to the person next to you, honestly, at any brewery we go to. And it's nice because you can talk to the bartender too, like the person pouring your beer, and like just ask just questions on the history of the brewery and like how they started and everything. Just learning a little bit more of how, not just how the brewery or how the beer is brewed, but just how things around the community and everything in that area. So
yeah, a month or so ago, I saw on your Instagram account that you actually got to help brew a beer. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so our Instagram page has led us to meeting some really cool people in the beer community. A friend of ours, For Another Round, they have a podcast and they invited us to join them at Mobcraft to help brew their own beer. They submitted an idea that was picked and voted on, and they asked if we'd like to join them. So we stopped by Mobcraft and helped them brew their beer that is currently on tap.
Yeah, that process started at 8 a.m. So, I mean, we had to drive from Madison because they had their, 1-year anniversary of their podcast. So they had a party in Madison. And then the next day at 8 a.m., we had to drive back from Madison to start brewing with them in Milwaukee at Mobcraft, which was fun. I mean, they had bagels, coffees, and a little bit of beer right away in the morning to get you going again. So
for those not familiar with the Wisconsin area, Madison's about 2 hours away from Milwaukee.
Yeah. So it was a drive right bright and early to get there by 8 a.m. after drinking most of the night.
So you kind of know what it's like to own a brewery then, right? Or
yeah, right.
Work in a brewery.
Yeah.
Late nights and early mornings and a lot of hard work during the day.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your sidekick.
So we have a golden doodle
There he is.
named Crosby. He is turning 6 this year, and he's named after Sidney Crosby, the hockey player. But if you're not familiar with hockey, we like to say he's named after Mason Crosby from the Packers.
There we go.
He likes to join us at different patios. In Milwaukee, there's a lot of dog-friendly patios and dog-friendly breweries. So if we stop by one of those, we tend to bring him with us, and he says hi to everybody that is in the tap room.
I mean, most breweries too, like you can bring a dog in as long as there's no food. So I mean, it's also a nice thing to do.
Mhm. And a lot of times they'll have food trucks
Yeah.
or appetizers. So he samples them.
There we go. That's awesome. We have a dog as well, and she's not as social as other dogs. We tend to not take her with us because she gets a little nippy, but she is almost 12. So she's getting a little older and a little set in her ways. So what other experiences have you had in the brewing industry that you found unique and different than anything else that you've been involved in?
I think we've been introduced to so many breweries by going to different festivals. We've been to a couple festivals in Milwaukee, one in Kenosha, and it gave us an opportunity to learn a little bit more about breweries that aren't necessarily in our area. So we got to their social media pages, kind of seeing what they're doing. We saw like there were different breweries that just do home brewing and they visit or pour at these festivals. There are people who own breweries in multiple states. Like Indeed, they have a brewery here in Wisconsin, but they also have one in Minnesota. So just seeing how different these breweries are, but how they all come together to pour at these festivals or in different communities.
That's great. We all love a good beer festival, but I know from the brewery side of it, during the summer, it's like every weekend there's a different festival or event. And so a lot of them get festival fatigue at the end of the summer. So let's talk about the future and the podcast. You know, what are some of the things that you're looking to do with the podcast, and what are some of the interesting stories you're hoping to share with some of the people that are listening?
I feel like one of the goals is to find, like I had said earlier, I wasn't a beer drinker when I began.
When we went to the bars or anything when we first started dating, her beer choice was a Blue Moon. So I mean, it's still somewhat of a craft beer, but
Yeah. So
nothing like we drink now, where you drink barrel-aged beers and stouts. And her palate has definitely changed since since we first started talking.
Yeah. So I think one of the goals is to hear about the different beers that breweries offer and try to help people find what they're interested in or introduce them to beers that they might not like at first or might not think they like, and kind of help them find something that they would be interested in sipping on.
Right now we have like friends that ask us, what beer should we drink? I'm like, well, there's depends like what you like. Like, so we ask questions like what they like and everything, and try and match them with beers at breweries that we go to with them. So
We found a lot of people like to start with a sour. A lot of people have been interested in starting with a lighter sour beer and then kind of working their way up to a barrel aged.
Or like a Hefeweizen is usually like a go-to for a person that's starting out, I guess, that we've noticed.
Yeah, we found the same thing, is you have to baby step people into craft beer. If they're drinking Bud Light or Miller Lite or some other version of mega brewed beers, they have a taste that they've become familiar with. And so when you give them a beer that's got a lot of flavor in it, you see their eyes get really big and they're like, holy smokes, this is what beer tastes like.
Right.
So it's quite the experience when you start sharing it with other people. And what's also great too is catching up with them a year down the line and seeing just how far their beer palate has expanded, kind of like Danielle.
Yeah.
I think another goal is just to make people aware of how awesome Milwaukee is. We have so many breweries here, and there's so much to do in the city, especially in the summer when it's not cold. So hopefully more people are willing to come down and visit and kind of see what we have here in the city.
Yeah, and we also host this tiny little music festival every year called Summerfest, where it's 2 weeks of
Very tiny.
music from all over the world. And there are so many great breweries within a stone's throw of Summerfest, so that you can come down, spend a day at Summerfest, and the next day tour the Milwaukee breweries and have an awesome experience in Milwaukee. So yeah, we do have a great and growing beer community, which is hopefully will become Brew City once again.
Right.
That's the goal.
Yes. All right. Is there anything else we should know about you guys before we end our podcast for today?
If you see us in a tap room, come and say hi.
Yeah.
Come say hi to Crosby.
If they're interested, what is your Instagram tag so that they can start to follow you?
So we are at the Kleven's Brew Tour. Send us a message or comment on one of our pages. We'll probably get back to you pretty quickly.
Okay. We'll also have the links in the show notes on the website for this, as well as on the YouTube page. All right. Well,
thank you.
It's been great meeting you both, and we're looking forward to you taking over as hosts of the Market the Brew podcast. And in addition to the new hosts, as we move forward, we'll be changing the format of the Market the Brew podcast. As in the past, we'll still be looking for great grassroots marketing efforts breweries are doing to gain visibility within their marketplace. But we will also be digging deeper behind the scenes to uncover successful business strategies breweries are using that positively affect their business. We want the podcast to be a source of entertainment and information that can be used to help shorten the learning curve for new and seasoned brewery professionals across the country. We have found that the craft beer industry is very collaborative, and we'd like our podcast to help with that. We will post each new episode on our social media outlets and hope that you will share your thoughts and comments for each episode with us. With your feedback, we will continue to provide valuable content and improve with each podcast. Stay tuned for our first podcast, as we'll be hosting the man behind Secret Hopper and the Craft Beers Professional Group on Facebook, Mr. Andrew Copland. If you're not a member of the Craft Beer Professionals Group in Facebook, and you want to join that group prior to listening to the podcast, just search the Craft Beer Professionals on Facebook. Thank you for tuning in today, and please tell your friends about the Market the Brew podcast and share our posts on your Facebook and LinkedIn with your connections. Until the next podcast, cheers.
We've reached the end of this episode, but there's plenty more to keep you busy. For online source materials and proven case studies delivered right to your inbox, sign up for our mailing list by visiting marketthebrew.com. We'll see you next time on Market the Brew.